welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith at TB. Here are some stories making headlines or rounds beyond the continent. And we begin the news with comments by Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has said he had a very useful phone conversation with U.S. President Donald Trump about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The Russian president said that the discussion lasted over 2 hours and described it as, quote, substantial and highly honest, end quote. While details of the conversation have not been made public, Putin emphasized the value of the exchange, calling it a productive step towards resolving the crisis. The Kremlin did not specify whether any concrete outcomes were achieved, and Trump's team has yet to release a formal statement. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says Russia and Ukraine will immediately begin negotiations towards a ceasefire. Trump made the announcement via his Truth Social platform on Monday, noting both sides are now prepared to start talks aimed at ending the war. In his post, he described the tone of the conversation as excellent, adding that the discussion was not just about a ceasefire, but also about an end to the war. While there has been no official confirmation from Kyiv or Moscow on the start of talks, Trump's post has sparked international attention, particularly amid stalled diplomatic efforts and ongoing violence in Ukraine. In the meantime, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has welcomed top European Union officials to London on Monday, following a major breakthrough in UK-EU relations. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, European Council President Antonio Costa, and Prime Minister Starmer toured the Royal Navy frigate HMS Sutherland, docked in central London. The visit marked the symbolic start of a new phase in UK-EU cooperation after both sides signed a landmark agreement strengthening defence and trade ties. Opening the first EU-UK summit since Brexit, Starmer described the agreement as, quote, a new era in our relation, end quote, and a strategic partnership fit for our times, end quote. Still in the UK, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has condemned what she described as, quote, growing state-backed threats on UK soil, end quote, after 3 Iranian nationals were charged with espionage over the weekend. Addressing lawmakers in the House of Commons on Monday, Cooper said the Iranian regime poses an unacceptable threat to domestic democracy, which cannot continue, end quote. Her comments come amid escalating diplomatic tensions between London and Tehran. The 3 men were arrested on May 3rd and appeared in court in London on Saturday, and they were accused of spying for the Islamic Republic of Iran. While details of the case remain classified, officials say it highlights a broader pattern of hostile state activity. Meanwhile, Israel says humanitarian and distribution sites in Gaza should be operational in a matter of days. Israeli Foreign Ministry Director General Eden Bar-Tal, he confirmed on Monday that the Israeli army has contacted international organizations to resume supply operations immediately. This follows the partial lifting of a 2-month blockade, with the first trucks carrying baby food allowed into Gaza. While aid trucks have begun entering the strip, UN agencies continue to warn of critical shortages of food, clean water, and medicine, with the World Health Organization saying 2 million people are starving.
An international fund, GHF, will operate based on this principle: direct aid to the population in Gaza, but not to Hamas. Israel supports this plan fully. The fund will distribute the aid in several distribution centers located in safe areas in Gaza. The IDF will not take part of the distribution. The IDF will secure the perimeter. The distribution sites should be operating in matter of days. We are monitoring the levels of basic items in Gaza, and we will facilitate the supply of items in low levels in order to avoid shortages. Due to these statements, Israel is now allowing the supply of such items to the population. This will continue until the beginning of the operation of the new fund, matter of days. The purpose of this is to temporarily bridge the current needs until the fund's operation begins and supplies these items.
Meanwhile, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has called for Israel to be excluded from the Eurovision Song Contest as long as it continues with its military campaign in Gaza. Now, speaking at the presentation of a report entitled The Cultural and Creative Sectors in Spain, Sanchez said Israel should face the same consequences as Russia, which was barred from international competitions, including Eurovision, following the conflict in Ukraine. He emphasized the importance of consistency in upholding international law, asserting that Spain had to be, quote, constant and consistent in its stance.
Muy interesante la conversación. El compromiso de España con la legalidad internacional y con los derechos humanos debe ser constante y debe ser coherente, también desde Europa. Y por eso creo que nadie se llevó las manos a la cabeza cuando se inició hace 3 años la invasión de Rusia a Ucrania y se le exigió la salida de nada más y nada menos competiciones internacionales y también no participar, por ejemplo, recientemente lo hemos visto este pasado fin de semana en Eurovisión. Y por tanto tampoco debería hacerlo Israel, porque lo que no podemos permitir son dobles estándares tampoco en la cultura. Y desde aquí
A diplomatic delegation made of Arab and foreign representatives visited the Tok Karim refugee camp in the northern occupied West Bank on Monday to assess the extensive destruction caused by ongoing Israeli military operations. Tok Karim governor, that's Abdullah Kamil, who hosted the delegation, said between 2,800 and 3,000 housing units have been destroyed in the Tuk-Karim and Nor Shams camps, displacing around 24,000 people. According to the UN, at least 38,000 people have been displaced since Israel launched its large-scale offensive in the area in January. Kamil accused the Israeli forces of looting, blocking relief efforts, and violating international law. He added that over 220 Palestinians, including women and children, have been killed since October 7th, while the region's economy and education sectors have been brought to a halt.
الإطلاق لا يوجد مبرر أمني واضح تماما أن الإسرائيليين اتخذوا قرار سياسي بهذا العدوان ونتنياهو معني شخصيا بممارسة ما يسمى بالحرب. حرب ضد من؟ ضد البنى التحتية، ضد العزل من أبناء شعبنا، ضد المباني، مباني الناس في المخيمات، وبالتالي نزوح الناس. هل هذا
الرئيسي لا يوجد سكان على الإطلاق. الاحتلال قام بطرد واقتلاع وتهجير تحت تهديد السلاح والإرهاب، قام بطرد كل سكان المخيم، والظروف حاليا صعبة جدا في داخل المخيم، تدمير، تجريف، حرق كل بيوت السكنية، فتح شوارع، بنية تحتية كما تشاهدين، مجاري، صرف صحي، اتصالات، كهرباء، كله مدمر. نطالب.
Still in Gaza, desperate scenes are unfolding as residents struggle to access basic necessities amid a worsening humanitarian crisis. Images from the war-ravaged territory show long queues for food and water, children suffering from malnutrition, and families scrambling for meals provided by charity kitchens. This comes after Israel imposed a total blockade on Gaza on March 2nd. On Monday, Israel announced the entry of baby food into Gaza, the first aid permitted since the government said it would partially lift the 2-month blockade.
انا اولادي بعيطوا من قله الميه، كل يوم بدي 40 لتر عبي الميه وطعم بخير. لما نزل اهل الشمال عندنا على الغرب صارت الميه تجيح وفيش عندنا ميه، 100 عافيه الناس بيجيبوا لنا اياها نعبي والميه بكفيش نصحى من النوم فيش ميه نشرب.
غزه في دمار شامل، يعني الامان اللي احنا عايشين المأساة فيها لا توصف، يعني لا عيشه كريمه ولا حاجه. احنا قلت انا كاطفالي يعني مش ملاقي، اقسم بالله ما احنا ملاقيين اكل.
Hundreds of Palestinian families are fleeing western Khan Yunis in southern Gaza following fresh evacuations orders that was issued by the Israeli military on Monday. Israeli army called on residents in and around Khan Yunis to evacuate immediately ahead of what it described as an unprecedented attack in the area. In response, families were seen parking belongings and heading west on foot and in vehicles. The development comes as Israel expands its military operations across the Gaza Strip, with reports from local rescuers confirming more than 50 people killed in recent airstrikes.
والله مش عارف وين في الطريق ماشي، والله ما نعرف وين رايح. يا عم جيبوا لنا وبعدين مش واحد فوق ال100,000 نازح في الطريق بدون مأوى، بدون أكل، بدون شرب، جوع، أكل، طحين فيش، أكل فيش، مش قادر أمشي وهذا مع أعصاب، كنا مرضين. يا عم سلموا، أنا بوجه رسالة من خان يونس للمفاوضين بأي ثمن سلموا. بأي ثمن هنا حلونا يا ناس، بأي ثمن حلونا.
كانوا في الشوارع جاي من الشرقية مش عارفين وين نروح وين نرتمي، في أي شارع، في أي شارع نروح مش عارفين، لو في مكان آمن نروح نقعد فيه. مفيش آمن والله يا أخي. مش مكان آمن نروح فيه، هنا جاي من آخر الدنيا بالعكاز مش قادرين نمشي، لا في عربية ولا في حاجة.
Away from that, Pope Leo XIV has met with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and his delegation at the Vatican. According to the Vatican media office, they talked about the strong bilateral ties between the Holy See and Australia, with particular mention of the Catholic Church's role in education. The two also discussed key issues of mutual concern, including environmental protection and religious freedom. The meeting came during a day of intense diplomacy at the Vatican, including a meeting between Pope Leo and American Vice President J.D. Vance, and highlighted the influence of the Catholic Church leader one day after an inaugural mass to begin his papacy. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, we'll tell you that victims of a French pedophile surgeon protests outside court demand government action. Details of this and more after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has already spread to his bones. The 82-year-old, who stepped down from politics last year, is now reviewing treatment options as tributes and well wishes pour in from across the political spectrum. News Central's international correspondent Athia Hagen reports.
Update on former US President Joe Biden, who has been diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer at the age of 82. According to a statement released on Sunday, Biden was diagnosed on Friday after seeking medical help for urinary symptoms. Doctors found the cancer had spread to his bones, classifying it as high grade with a Gleason score of 9, one of the most aggressive forms of the disease. Experts say the cancer is hormone sensitive, meaning it can be managed with treatment, but not cured. Biden and his family are now reviewing options, including hormone therapy to slow its progression. The diagnosis has prompted an outpouring of support from across the political divide. President Donald Trump said he and First Lady Melania were saddened by the news and wished the Biden family a full recovery. Former Vice President Kamala Harris, who replaced Biden as a Democratic nominee in 2024, said she's praying for a fighter. And former President Barack Obama, who appointed Biden to lead the U.S. Cancer Moonshot program in 2016, praised his longtime friend's strength and dedication to cancer research. Biden's personal connection to the cause runs deep. His son Beau died of brain cancer in 2015, and Biden made fighting cancer a signature mission during and after his presidency. Biden had already stepped back from public life after withdrawing from the 2024 race due to health and age concerns, but this diagnosis confirms the challenges he's been quietly facing in recent weeks. In one of his last public interviews, Biden described stepping aside as difficult but necessary. He also denied speculation over cognitive decline, insisting there was nothing to sustain that. Former President Biden has long championed the fight against cancer. Now he faces that battle himself. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Former U.S. President Joe Biden expresses gratitude to Americans on Monday for their love and support after the former U.S. president said he has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Biden, whose son Beau Biden died of cancer in 2015, posted on X with a photograph of him and his wife, saying cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support, end quote. The weekend revelation that the 82-year-old Democrat had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer and that it had spread to his bones sparked an outpouring of good wishes, including from current President Donald Trump, Biden's Vice President Kamala Harris, and everyday Americans. And off to France, where victims of convicted pedophile surgeon Joël Lacornic staged a protest outside Vannes courthouse on Monday, demanding justice and institutional accountability. Members of a victims' collective gathered at the courthouse steps, calling for the creation of an interministerial commission to investigate systemic failures that enabled the abuse. The group says it has submitted a formal letter to the Ministries of Health and Justice. The surgeon, who is 74, is currently standing trial for what has become one of the largest child sex abuse cases in French history. He faces charges of 111 rapes and 189 sexual assaults committed over decades at various hospitals across Western France.
Parce que, comme on disait, on est à 9 jours du procès, et à 9 jours du procès, il ne se passe rien, on n'a pas eu une réaction politique, voire sociétale, et malheureusement, malgré l'épreuve de ce procès qui est quand même complexe pour nous, on est obligé de mettre de l'énergie pour se faire entendre, pour essayer d'avoir un peu de visibilité, un peu de considération, et surtout que ça fasse date, parce qu'on n'a pas les conséquences. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on demande une commission interministérielle. Un courrier a été envoyé au ministre de la Santé, au ministre de la Justice, à la haut-commissaire à l'enfance. Aujourd'hui, on n'a pas eu de retour, et on attend un retour de leur part pour prendre en compte ce qui est en train de se passer, le drame qui s'est passé sur ce territoire, sur l'ouest de la France, mais au-delà.
On est intimement convaincu que ce procès est, comme on l'a dit, un laboratoire à ciel ouvert de l'ensemble des défaillances systémiques et qu'il peut profiter dans cette vision et cette compréhension de ces défaillances systémiques pour créer en fait un vrai dispositif d'accompagnement, un vrai système de prévention. Il y a énormément.
Two climbers from Romania and India have died on Nepal's Mount Lhotse, the world's fourth highest peak, taking the number of fatalities this season to at least 9. Romania's Barna Zsolt Vago died on Sunday as he was ascending the 8,516-meter mountain. He was not using supplemental oxygen. On the same day, an Indian climber, Rakesh Kumar, died between Camp 3 and Camp 4 as he was descending after a successful summit. The incident comes after two people, a Filipino and an Indian climber, died on neighboring Mount Everest last week. At least 5 others, including one French, one American, an Austrian, and 2 Nepali climbers, have died on the Himalayan mountains since the spring climbing season began. Torrential rains have forced Indonesian rescuers to suspend their efforts to find 14 missing gold miners after a landslide in the remote east of the country killed 6 of their colleagues. Officials reported on Monday that the weather and difficult terrain were hindering the search for the workers in the easternmost region of Papua. Torrential rain triggered a landslide and floods late on Friday near a small mine run by residents in the Arfak Mountains in West Papua province. The storm swept away temporary shelters used by the miners, killing at least 6 people and injuring 4. Authorities said they plan to resume their search for the missing on Tuesday. Meanwhile, a volcano in eastern Indonesia erupted twice on Monday, sending a towering ash plume into the air. Shortly after, officials raised the alert level to the country's highest tier. Mount Tobi Liki, located on the popular tourist area of island of Flores, erupted just after midnight, spewing an ash cloud 1.2 kilometers above its summit. A second eruption was recorded at 9:30 a.m. local time. Now, this activity follows a series of powerful eruptions on Sunday, which sent ash as high as 6 kilometers into the air and prompted authorities to raise the alert to level 4, the highest in the nation's 4th-year warning system. Officials have warned that the potential for a larger eruption remains, and residents have been advised to stay at least 6 kilometers from the crater. And off to Taiwan, where a tragic scene unfolded outside a school near Taipei on Monday as a car driven by an elderly man plumbed into a group of mostly students, leaving at least 3 people dead and 12 others injured. The incident occurred at around 4 p.m. local time when the 78-year-old driver reportedly ran a red light, striking 3 motorbikes, a bicycle, and then a crowd of students and adults near the school entrance. Police released footage shows emergency responders performing chest compressions on victims spiraled across the floor. Others were carried away on stretchers as stunned bystanders looked on. And their soul rest in peace. And that's all we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 42T. We're GoTV now. Find us on channel 23 or also on Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Good night.